Good evening. We want to welcome you tonight to a special session that's called for the Swain County School Board. Tonight we have a particular agenda where we will be discussing the plans for the second semester of this particular school year. Before we get into that, let me explain a couple of things to anyone who may be watching. One is we have two new board members tonight, and we want to welcome you, Mitch Carson, who is a lifelong resident of Swain County. We're glad to have you, young man. And I like being able to say that, young man. And also Cody White, and you're a young man also, a lifelong resident of Swain County to my knowledge, and we're glad to have both of you. We're looking forward to the expertise that you're both going to bring to the board. Of course, we've lost Lambert Wilson and Melly Burns after 12 years each, and we're going to miss them. But we're thankful that they have an opportunity to do something a little different for a while. With that being said, we need to go ahead and move forward with our prayer and our pledge. Travis Hyatt, if you would lead us in the pledge, please. And Mitch Carson, if you would lead us in the prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we pray. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for all the opportunities. We thank you for the blessings. Lord, we thank you for the benefits that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for these people. We thank you for our school system. Lord, we thank you for the leaders of our community, the leaders of our land. God, I pray that you would be with them tonight. I pray that you'd be with this meeting, that everything that's said and done here would be in accordance to thy will and be to honor you. And Lord, we do love you because you did first love us. And Lord, we ask all these things in your precious holy name. Amen.
Now this evening I'm going to call the meeting to order only because we need to elect a chair of the school board, which is normally during the first regular meeting in December after an election. However, this is not a regular meeting. We're a little bit early. We still need a chair, though. And so, according to Board Policy 2200, we are to take nominations for a chair and a vice chair. And from that point, the meeting will be run. The only problem is, Board Policy 2200 states that is supposed to happen at the regularly scheduled board meeting. So I'm going to ask if you would be amenable to following the rules of Policy 2450, which allows for us to temporarily put aside that policy, to suspend that policy, so that we can elect a chair and a vice chair tonight. So the first order of business, if you would move in that direction, is to invoke Policy 2450 so that we can suspend Policy 2200 just because of the timing.
I'll make that motion.
Mitch Carson makes the motion that we suspend Board Policy 2200. We need a second for that.
Second.
We have a second with Travis Hyatt. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor, signify that you are in approval of that by raising your hand. Thank you very much. With that being said, then it would be my honor to take nominations for board chair for the next calendar year.
I nominate Jerry McKinney, board chair.
Jerry McKinney has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Seeing that there are no other nominations, would you vote in approval of Mr. McKinney as the chair for the school board for the next calendar year by signifying with a raised hand? Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mr. McKinney. The rest of the meeting is yours to run.
I don't know if that's congratulations or not. All right, the next item then we have on here is election of the school board vice chair. I'll now take nominations for the vice chair of the school board.
I'll nominate Ms. Kim.
Do we have any other nominations? All those in favor by show of hands? Congratulations, Kim.
Appreciate the trust.
And my first thought when we did that, I liked what our lawyer said earlier, that we work as a team together on everything. I like what he stressed on that, and that's what it's about. There's 5 of us here, and all 5 of us have equal input, equal votes, equal status. And I appreciate that from him. All right, let's start off with our usual guest, Miss Allison Cochran.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? In front of you, you should have the normal spreadsheet that I've been presenting at all the meetings. Usually just skip on down to Swain County if that's okay with everybody. Swain County total test 8,534. There have been 482 positive cases. We have 54 active cases, 5 fatalities. Overall, the positivity rate is 5.6%. If you see over the past month, it's been 5.2, 5.4. 5.6 is not a great jump with that. Case fatality, we're at 1%, so we are lower now with the case fatality, so that's good. We currently have, to our knowledge, 3 hospitalized, 1 in their 90s, 1 in their 70s, and 1 person in their 50s hospitalized with COVID symptoms. I believe with the school system, there are 2 positive employees, is that correct?
Yes, there are 2 positive employees this week, yes.
Okay. We do have a cluster at a church, as well as our jail is still considered a cluster outbreak or an outbreak, as well as EBCI Detention Center is an outbreak as well. On the back page, these are Graham, Macomb, Clay, Cherokee, and Jackson. Around November the 30th, you have the data, and then either yesterday or today's data. With that, what I normally look at is the positivity rate and the case fatality. If you look through most of the counties, they're averaging about the same on the positivity rate. And case fatality, it looks like the counties, all the counties are dropping in those percentages as well, just like we are. The bottom is a graph that we put on Facebook. We do that on Mondays and Thursdays. Since Monday, we've added 15 new positives. So, of course, that brings our active cases up to 54, that previous data. And then there's a breakdown by zip code. On that first page, I wanted to get your input where we break it down by zip code, by the different dates. Do you still want that information, or do you just want the information that is actually on that graph?
Explain that one more time, will you?
On the first page, the third.
The previous dates you're talking about.
Yeah, the previous dates where it's broken down by zip codes. Do you want me to continue with that information, breaking it down where the cases are located, or do you just want the back total per se each time that I come?
If it's not too much trouble, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
If it's not too much trouble, if you could keep that, if it's too much of a burden on you, then certainly you don't have to.
Okay.
But if
No,
it's
that's fine.
something that's really simple, I think that gives us an idea of potential zones or something we may need to pay attention to with east and west separation across the counties. It may play a decision-making factor.
Okay, not a problem. Anything? Okay. If you'll see under the Swain County data, I should have mentioned this, under pending tests, it's blank. With that, we're not going to be reporting that anymore because it's quite overwhelming to keep up with that. And we have a new reporting system, so it's been taken out, basically. So from now on, you will not see pending tests per se.
Okay.
Just to let you know that. Information that you don't have in front of you, the total case is broken down by ages since March. Ages 0 to 17, we've had 65. 18 to 24, we've had 44 positives. 25 to 49, 194. Ages 50 to 64, 112. 65 to 74, we've had 40. 75 and older is 27. We've had 12 individuals hospitalized that we are aware of. And just bringing it down between female and male. Female 232, males 250. This is a map that I get sent a couple of times a week. It is not the glorious red map that everybody is accustomed to seeing. This is a little different. This actually just shows the total cases per the county. And if you see, you know, we're usually bright red, but as you can see, we're light blue on here. And that's based on we have fewer positive cases than counties around us. But you can pass that around. Other information just to share, a lot of people ask us why we do not do percent positives every 2 weeks or every day like the state does. And the reason we cannot do that in Swain County is we have I won't say a hard time, but we do not receive all of the negative tests from different hospitals and the urgent care and such as that. So it's hard to accurately give you that information. So that's why we have never done that. So a lot of people do ask that and they want us to do that, but we can't because we don't have the accurate information to do that with. It's, of course, most important that we get the positives. You know, if it's negative, we'd like to have it, but it's not, you know, we've got to have it 100%, but the positives we do. But, you know, the urgent care and the hospitals are overrun and, you know, we just don't get the negatives sometimes. So.
How long does it take to get the information back on the test that they give at the urgent care?
The next day.
Is that it? And that's the good, the more reliable test?
That is the rapid test. Sometimes we'll get it by the afternoon, but anything that's usually done late afternoon, we get it by the next morning.
Okay.
So it's already in our office before we even get there. So we can start on contacting and quarantine, contact tracing. Information about the vaccine. What I reported last time may be a little different, just like with COVID, every day something's different, something changes. So right now, theoretically, in North Carolina, next week there should be shipments going out to some of the hospitals. It's the Pfizer vaccine. And I say that theoretically. That's what's planned. The closest hospital to us would be Haywood and Mission are receiving doses. After that, then we should receive doses the next week. I do not know how many. At that time, we have applied to be administrators of the vaccine as well as the hospital, meaning we'll get vaccine and be able to give it out. Walgreens can be an administrator, but they are unaware at this moment if they are locally in Bryson City. So they're trying to reach out to their corporation and see if they applied for Bryson City to receive vaccine or not. So I do not know that information. The nursing home and living centers should receive their own vaccine. If not, when we receive our first vaccine in the county, it will go to them first.
Other than that, is there any other particular order that it's going to fall upon? Or is it
Healthcare workers, first responders, then it goes through ages 65 and older with 2 conditions. Then it goes to like migrant farm, meat processing factories, school system, daycares, jails, such as that.
But in that first, I call it the first wave,
Yes.
the school system employees that will be receiving that have to have 2 conditions that exacerbate the issue. Is that true?
Yes, and I want to say they have to be 65 and older, but I don't
Okay.
know that 100%. I'd have to look at
Okay.
it. And the thing about it is, our first shipment, theoretically, it'll be over 900 doses. So I don't think it will be a
Sure.
problem once we get through the first responders and making sure the nursing home has had it and hospitals got it. So that'll be the first shipment theoretically in 2 weeks, the week before Christmas, thereabout.
Is the Pfizer the two-shot vaccine?
Both of them are.
Both of them are.
Yes. The Pfizer is the one that has to be in the ultra-cold storage, and the Moderna is one that can be stored in the vaccine fridge.
So the number that you're getting, is that, will you reserve one extra for the
No.
next dose?
We'll receive a second shipment later on, like at day 21 thereabout, because you have to take it between day 21 and 28, just depending the second dose. So we will receive that from the state then. We don't have to reserve a second dose. There will be an app that individuals can sign up for. It's called VSafe. And I would give you this handout right now, but as with everything, I'm afraid it might change. So it's called VSafe. You'll be able to download it. And once you get the vaccine, it will actually send you a text message every day just to take a survey about how you're feeling. Do you have any symptoms? That way they can keep track of that. As well as it will send you a reminder when you're supposed to come and get your second dose.
That's VSafe with V as in vaccine.
Yep, V-safe. But we will send this out before we get our shipment in, so people can start looking at this to download it on their phones.
The reason I asked that question about two existing conditions, we have a large number of school staff who are interested in taking the vaccine when it becomes available. But I don't want anyone to think that just because we have all of this coming in immediately, that all of our school staff are necessarily going to be involved in it right away. That all of our school staff, to my understanding, and Allison, please correct me if I'm wrong, would be involved in the vaccine, definitely in the second wave coming through.
Yes, it says on phase 2, education staff, child care K through 12, without 2 or more chronic conditions. So if they have 2 or more, they would be in the first
Yes.
1B phase.
Is this going to be a requirement or a recommendation?
Recommendation.
Okay.
It's going to be, at this point, it's like any other vaccine until the state comes along and says that we have to require that.
What about the students? When is that? Is there a plan for that anywhere?
That would be in phase 4, phase 3, phase 4. But I do believe, I've heard ages 16 and up, and I've heard 18 and up. So I'm not real sure about that, but I'm going to go with 18 probably.
You don't know the numbers of the, is it Moderna?
Pfizer and Moderna. Mhm.
Moderna, when is it? I know it's going to get approved probably a couple of weeks later. Is that mid-January?
Theoretically, let me look. Moderna applied for the EUA on November 30th, and advisory committee will meet on December 17th. So it will be after December 17th before it's approved.
How many do you expect out of them to start with? You
I don't know. Right now, this first wave was 85,000 that was sent to the certain hospitals,
Okay.
and that was the Pfizer.
So young people like me have been, that wasn't a good grin.
I was just gonna call you a first waiver.
That's right, first waiver.
That's a good term for it.
So once we get, like I said, the care workers and everything set up like that, we'll probably, theoretically, what we're thinking about doing is setting up a drive-through for the vaccine. And if I have to, my thought would probably be the rec park up top. Because we need to have parking and it needs to be out of the road and such as that, but just a thought.
It's a good idea.
You know, when we get ready for the school, we may set it up in the afternoon at the middle school or at the high school or
Sure.
somewhere like that, so. There's a lot up in the air. There's a lot of questions still that are unanswered, such as if you've had COVID, can you take the vaccine? Do you need to wait 6 months? And that's information we don't know yet.
Once you get the vaccine, how long is it? Do you have to have the second one for it to be effective, or is it,
Yes.
is there some effectiveness between the two?
They say you have to have the second one.
So still a long time that we have to be very cautious.
Yes.
Yes, you still have to wear a mask, wait 6 feet apart, and I foresee that for several months.
Seemed like I read the first shot gives you about, same as a flu vaccine, about 50-some%.
Probably. And it's not a live virus. I've been asked that
Right.
repeatedly. It is not a live virus.
When they say effectiveness, what exactly does that mean? Inability to contract, inability to transfer, or just fighting symptoms? Let's say it's 99 or whatever percent effective. I don't know the number, but when they say effective, what exactly does that mean?
Good question. I think it's in these facts and questions. I don't know, I may have to get back to you on that one.
And that's fine. I heard it the other day, and I thought, well, what does that really mean?
I heard on TV that I'm no expert, I'm not going to say.
Preventing COVID-19 with no
Yeah.
safety concerns. So Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective, and Moderna vaccine is 94.5% effective in preventing COVID-19 with no safety concerns.
So it's a big shield then?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry, I have to look at this. I
No,
have
that's
so
all
much
right.
information.
That's,
There's a lot
The
of stuff
other-
you're looking at, yeah.
The other thing that's changed, of course, is the quarantine period from CDC. North Carolina did adopt it. So if you are a contact to a positive and you have no symptoms, you can be released from isolation or from quarantine 7 days if you have a negative rapid or PCR test, either one, between days 5 and 7. You still have to wait the 7 days, but you can get that rapid test, and if it's negative, after day 7, you can go about your life, just monitor your symptoms. Before, it was 14 days. Now, if you do not go get the rapid test, most people do the rapid test, you have to wait 10 days. And that's if you don't have symptoms. If you're symptomatic, of course, you probably want to be tested. That's 10 days. If you're not tested, it's 14 days. Long-term care facilities, jail facilities such as that, congregate living, we're not shortening that time period to 7 days. It is automatically 14 days. That still applies to those places.
I guess the main question is, we always ask you, do you still feel comfortable
Yes,
in our school system?
yes.
I'm going to ask Allison to stick around because I'm going to put a lot of information in front of you in just a few minutes. And you may want to ask her what her opinion of the next step would be in this as well. Because I know that you trust her and trust and value her opinion for the future.
Our cases are within families, churches.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's where our cases are at. It's not with the children. You've had some, and you've had some staff, but it's not been a staggering amount by any means.
I've noticed everything you read, it seems to be, even across the United States, the schools seem to be the safest place to be.
Yes.
And I even noticed the new administration is even saying a commitment to maintain, keep schools open.
Yes.
So they're evidently comfortable with what the schools are doing. And
Schools are doing a great job across the state of North Carolina, as well as parents, really taking and understanding what this is and keeping their kids home when they're sick. They've done a great job with that.
I would second that. I've been so pleased
Yeah.
with how our parents and our community has respected the need for the school system to be safe. Symptoms have been monitored. I'll tell you that last week, since we had a board meeting November 30th, I didn't have complete data for that week. We had 29 students who were symptomatic or close contact, 1 positive. That 1 positive is rare for us, for students. Last week we had 6 staff members who were symptomatic or close contacts, and we had a positive last week. This week through yesterday, we had 22 students who were symptomatic or close contact with 1 positive. And we had 6 staff who developed symptoms or close contacts since last week, and 2 have tested positive. So our numbers, although they have climbed a little bit, they haven't climbed a great deal. Because if I look back through the weeks, I see that there are weeks where we've had 19 students who have been symptomatic or close contact, and A positive. 4 weeks ago, we had 28 students who were either symptomatic or close contact. And that week, we had 0 positives. So our numbers may be a little higher right now, but not a lot higher. Things are still working well for us.
And our active cases will probably go up over the next few days, and that's mainly because of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That 14 to 21 day time frame is what we look at after an event with communicable disease across the board. Especially with COVID, it's 14 days. So I do expect our numbers to go up, but just remember, some of these cases are going to come off isolation, but, they might stick around the 50, 60 mark, for sure.
And for the information for the 2 members, when we originally decided to start the program we're in, we had a motion, and the motion was that we go with the plan that we had, but the motion has always been on the table that with Allison's advice and our superintendent, if they need to close tomorrow at 10 o'clock for COVID, they gave the authority, they went ahead and did it. So they've had that authority all along from the board to make those decisions, and she's been invaluable to us.
Yes.
And given a lot of her time to help us, and it's appreciated.
Thank you.
I know that our governor has new restrictions.
Yes.
But none of those will impact anything with the school system at this point, right?
No, it's a curfew between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. I would not expect that.
But as far as not, I'm talking like numbers collectively together.
No, you shouldn't.
I have that executive order on my computer if you want. I'll send it to you. Any other questions for Allison tonight? Anything else for us?
Nope, a lot of information.
Thank you.
Still learning about the vaccine, so.
There's your paper.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Allison.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joe, if you'd pull up the screen for us, the slides. There are a couple of numbers on this that are, I think, different than the numbers you have on the information that I gave to you in your board packet. The primary difference is that underneath the all column on the left, if you'll see up on the screen, it says 1720. The reason that that number is now different, I contacted Karen Cook, who is our resident expert for counting numbers in Power School. And after looking at all of the numbers, we've determined that we actually have 1,720 students in our school buildings, excluding the pre-K. Pre-K right now has 78 students, according to her records, that are registered. And the Cherokee Extension School has 122 students in it. And for those who are not certain about what that is, we have an agreement with Cherokee because of impact aid, where we put funding through from the impact aid funding we get from Washington to take care of students with certain criteria beside their name, where they live, where their parents live. And right now, we are responsible for 122 students there. So if you put, but they actually count in our enrollment for Swain County. So if you put all of those numbers together, right now the enrollment in Swain County Schools is 1,920, okay? That's how come that number is different. And you'll also notice underneath the maybe category that there is 59. And when Karen got to looking at these, she recognized that there are students that are not accounted for in the numbers we've gotten from the schools regarding those who want to come back into the building from being on remote. And the reason that those students aren't accounted for is because even though our principals and their staff have made extraordinary efforts to contact all of the parents of remote students, there are some parents that are not responding and they can't get in contact with. That's not unusual, okay? And so right now, there's about a 59-person discrepancy there. About 10% in one school, 5% in another. So just know that those numbers are just a little different than what I gave you the other day, okay? Now, the chart that you have in front of you is the result of a survey and conversations that our school-based administration have had with parents of students who are currently on Plan C, but are expressing a desire to come back into the building for face-to-face instruction, or might be expressing desire to come back. And we thought that it was best if we count all of those together, because it's better to have a large number to look at. That might be your maximum, even if some people decide to not exercise that option. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay? So right now, we have about 1,084 students who we're serving face-to-face. And what we're seeing is about 362 students who are currently Plan C are wanting to come back, or their parents are wanting for them to come back into our buildings for instruction. So the total for that is 1,446 students, including all of those that want to be in our building or their parents want them to be. Does that make sense to you? And if you want to look at the rest of those numbers, you can see how that breaks down school by school. Now, anything that we talk about this evening is not going to impact the pre-K. The pre-K, because it exists under a different administrating body, and I'll be happy to explain that to you after the meeting tonight, okay? They have some options that the public education system doesn't have right now. That's why we can have our pre-K students in the building 5 days a week, okay? All right? Now, can we have the next slide, Joe, please? There are some limitations that we have to think about. If we are going to try and bring back, or if we were to try and bring back 1,446 students and put them in the buildings every single day, we could not social distance in any way. There is just not enough floor space for that. Another consideration for that is, until the governor, the state, releases all of our students to Plan A. See, he's released the elementary to Plan A, but he hasn't released the middle school and the high school. They're still Plan B. Until he releases all students back to Plan A, we still have to social distance on buses, which means one student per seat. We can't get all the students on the bus if we try to bring 1,446 back into the building right now. We have to remember those limitations. Floor space and seating on buses, okay? Now, regardless of what you all do tonight, the middle school and the high school are going to have to stay on Plan B. It's going to have to be an alternating day, 50% capacity max, okay? 8A, B day. That's because that's the requirement. The elementary school has some flexibility, all right? Then we can leave it the way that it is. Joe, could I have the next slide? We can leave it the way it is, where our elementary schools have a modified Plan A. Our students come to school 4 days a week. The middle and high stay in the schedule that they're in right now. But it would require that most of the Plan C students would have to remain Plan C. So any parent that chose Plan C last semester could very likely be looking at Plan C again this semester. All right? That's because at the elementary schools, there are limitations. That's the biggest piece. All right? However, it is possible for us to use a modified Plan B to step our elementary schools back from 4 days a week to 2 days a week and get every single student of every parent that wants to come from Plan C to Plan B back in the building and social distance them. We can accomplish that, okay? The other option that is possible is the school board could choose to pull all of the students back to Plan C. which would be total remote learning. And I would discourage you with every fiber of my existence right now to not ever think about that again. The educational opportunity for our students remotely is so severely limited that I think that we're going to still see the ramifications of that probably 10 years down the road. And I don't think I'm exaggerating on that, okay? Now, could we have the next slide, Joe? If we were to step all schools to Plan B, we can mix the 362 in, the elementary and the middle and the high school. And you have in those charts in front of you what the class sizes would look like. Let me show you what I mean, okay? Do you see the kindergarten line? One line is east and one line is west. Do you see how there's a Tuesday and a Thursday? Each Tuesday, Thursday is a teacher. So teacher A for Tuesday, Thursday will have 10 on each day in kindergarten at that school. Teacher B will have 10 on Tuesday and Thursday in that school. Teacher C will have 10 Tuesday and Thursday, and teacher D will have the same. Do you see how to read that? Does it make sense to you? And if you look down through there, you can divide the chart the same way. I think the important piece to see is this. As you look across there for the elementary schools, no classroom eclipses 11 students on any day. In most cases, there will be less students in the classrooms than we have right now in the elementary schools, because we've stepped ourselves back and gone to a split. Does that make sense? And in some ways, that can be important, particularly since we're looking at coming back from some holidays. It will allow us to increase our social distance and to allow teachers to be able to monitor what their students are doing more closely all the time. You all know that when you have 8 students in a classroom, it's easier to watch all of them than when you've got 12 or 14. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Now, to the right of your chart is the middle school. The middle school looks a little different, but the thing to remember from that chart is Mr. Kerr has designed his numbers so that no classroom will have more than 12 students in it each day. If you take teacher 1 in 6th grade and add the 13 face-to-face they have now and the 11 C students that would be coming back to that classroom, and then split them in half, you've got half of 24, which is 12 on each day. I mean, he's a genius to figure that out. And it works in every single classroom. There will be some C students out there on the right where it says from C. I believe that's what it says, from C up there. There will be 3 teachers who will be focusing on 24 students who are coming back from Plan C, because there are some students who have not fared as well, and that will give us an opportunity to give them a different level of attention and maybe bring them up to speed, okay? Again, the key for the middle school is the way that Mr. Kerr and his staff have this figure, there will be no more than 12 students in the classroom every day, all right? The high school is a different beast, folks. Sonia and her staff, I call Mr. Kerr a genius. Sonia is a flat-out strategic genius. And she can look at all of this stuff and she can figure out how to make all of it work. They don't know exactly how many students are going to be coming back. She is thinking from the numbers that she has gotten that they will have about 80 students come back, which means on the Plan B, they'll split them 40 Monday, Tuesday, 40 Thursday, Friday. And her goal will be to ensure that there is social distancing in all classrooms. She has been able to do that through the fall. And I trust that she will be able to do that in the spring as well. But the scheduling at the high school, there is no other way to describe it than it is a beast. Because you have so many different requirements from so many different students and so many different subjects. Okay? She has been a mastermind and her group has been a mastermind. There will still be about 120 students from the high school who are expressing desire to stay on Plan C remote, though. Okay? Now, I want to stop there and ask, do you have any questions about anything that I have said so far? Again, I told you it's going to be a lot of information. I know that.
Are all the classrooms, the new classrooms now being used?
The only classrooms, the only new classrooms that are not being used right now at the high school, to my knowledge, Jerry, are the STEM classrooms, the really large ones. And the reason for that is they've been holding off of that. And I talked to Bob Guerin yesterday evening, I believe it was. No, this morning. And he said that there is something that they need to do to discontinue using the return air system in those classrooms so that they can ensure a negative ventilation. Okay, and the reason for that is you don't want a circulating air system when you're using chemicals, because you will spread that into all of the building. And so somehow, I mean, I know how I would do it, but somehow they're going to go in there and they're going to discontinue the return so that anything that is in that building can be pushed out the windows or some other way. Does that make sense? So it'll be a little bit before those classrooms are ready. There is the one classroom that's downstairs that used to be, they called it the pit, that we filled in, all right? That's storing furniture right now for the 2 STEM classrooms, I think, and for some, no, it's storing furniture for the work that's being done up in the old administration building, old administration offices. Okay, they're in the process of remodeling that now. So that classroom is not available yet. I think that Sonia's going to use that for a professional development room for a while anyhow. Okay, so to answer your question, the new office space is being used. The counseling suite is being used. The classrooms that had some modification in windows and doors, they're all being used to my knowledge. The only classrooms that are not are the STEM. I'm sorry I took so long to explain that, but I wanted to be thorough.
So they should be in use maybe, hopefully, you think, by sometime in January?
I hesitate. Sonia,
There she is.
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the STEM classroom? Step up here, please.
The ventilation is the biggest issue that we've got right now because of the chemical storage. They've got an electrical panel and a chemical storage unit. We are not going to use it for chemicals, but then they came across the ventilation system because there's a gap in the door, and they've got to get all that stuff fixed. We were told we would have that by December 3rd, but we didn't get it. So we will be able to, once we put those in there though, it will free up 2 larger classrooms, and when we get that furniture moved out, it will, if we need to, prepare us for that, the pit, because it's a huge classroom, like, we can probably put like 20 kids in that, if need be. So our intent is to get the kids scheduled, and then if I have to move teachers on carts and from classroom to classroom to accommodate, I've already thrown that at them, like, you need to be prepared, because if we're going to get the kids in the building, we're going to make it work. Even if we have to teach next to the green screen and in the media center and whatever we've got to do just so we can get our kids back. And our numbers are looking a little bit higher now. We got some more information in. So we are about 45 shy of having made contact with all of our Plan C students. And right now we're at 82 wanting to come back and 81 wanting to stay C, with 45 remaining to find out.
Y'all have any questions for Sonia? And I've got all of our principals here tonight except for Trish, because pre-K stays the same. I had all of them come in tonight so that if you had questions for them, that you could ask them. They're the experts for their campus. Okay?
They think those classrooms are going to be opened up next to the office space fairly quickly, but
You know, I appreciate that, but they've said fairly quickly 50 times in construction, and what I have learned is you take fairly quickly and add 2 months. And I mean, I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but I'm not. I'll tell you all, and this is a little off topic, I'll tell you that they should be paving that new parking circle area next week. And if we all push hard enough, they should be paving that road, the road going in the week after that. Okay? They should. Anything else for Sonia? Okay, thank you. Now, next, any other questions? Okay, next slide, please, Joe. There's some additional information that you need to have. Because we don't have every single request from every single parent, we're going to leave their opportunity to choose Plan C or Plan B up through December the 18th. If a parent wants to change their choice that they have expressed to the school, they can do that up through December the 18th, but they'll need to contact the building level administration to make that change, if that's approved, okay? After that, we will go to an application process, so that if a Plan C student, if a parent of a Plan C student wants to bring them back to B, they can apply to come back, okay? Now, in the past, we've capped it, but you saw by the numbers that we may have enough space to pull some more in. That we will not pull more in when it gets to the point that we cannot social distance anymore. That's going to be the key for this plan, because I believe that that has been the intent of the board, and also, to my memory, the intent of Allison for quite a while. Social distance and mask is a key in this, all right? If a student wants to if a parent wants a student to transfer from B to C, all they have to do is apply and have a conversation with the administration. Next slide, please, Joe. High school's a little different because of the way that the courses work. If a student moves, if a student is in C and they haven't chosen to go to B by the beginning of next semester, they're not going to be able to move. We can't do that, okay? We had some students this last semester who wanted to go from Plan B in the face-to-face to C. After the end of the first quarter of second semester, they won't be able to do that either, because they won't be able to get their work done. They'll basically be starting over with 9 weeks to complete. Does that make sense? If a parent doesn't contact the student, doesn't contact the school, and let the school know what of the plans they want, they will be assigned to the plan that they had last semester, which will probably be Plan C. Does that make sense to you? I think that we've tried to cover all of the different bases if there's a shift that's made. And I believe that by doing it this way, everybody is getting a really fair opportunity to do what they feel is best for their student. Okay? Now, questions that I haven't covered, or if there's more information that you need. I know it's a lot.
Just from looking at the numbers, you said that they would probably work, but the application process, how will you be looking at the?
We'll be looking at keeping our numbers to 12 per classroom, or whatever we can fit in that classroom for social distancing. The high school is different, Travis, okay? And if a parent requests to come back from C to B and there's no space, they will have to wait until there is space, or we could put a date down. That's what that star is. We could put a date down, and we could revisit the numbers at a later time without a wait list. Does that make sense?
It's like first come, first served.
Yes, yes. And there's another piece for that. If a student transfers out, that could leave a slot, so somebody could transfer in. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I still would suggest that we maintain the same procedure policy that we've been holding, and that is students from outside of Swain County, they can transfer in if they move into the county. If they don't move into the county, they can't transfer in. I think that's the safest thing to do right now. Okay?
Now, refresh my memory again. On this new grant we got.
Which
that-
grant?
Most of that money's
Which grant, Jerry?
300,000, wasn't it?
$350,000 that we got from
That's for
ICARES.
remote, right? To improve, a lot of that goes to.
Some can be used for remote. It's actually after school,
After school, that's right.
okay? And part of the after-school element that was written into that has to do with remote days and providing some instruction for those students as well. We don't have those pieces worked out. We have a meeting tomorrow to begin that. And then,
That's
we'll-
coming.
yes, we'll come to you all next Monday and explain more about that. Any questions?
So in effect, this is really only impacting as far as the Plan B, the elementary schools as far as backing kids out of the classroom.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
allowing for other Plan C, part of them to come back into the classroom.
Yes. And Kim, I believe that that's really important for us, because when we started this process, when we started talking about this, we said to the parents and to the community that this would either go through the end of the semester or the end of the state of emergency, whichever is first. Okay? Well, I think at the beginning of the school year that most of us, I know, maybe I was the only one that was, so hopeful that this would be under control by now. And boy, was I wrong. So I think that we really need to give our parents, I believe we need to give our parents an opportunity to get their kids back in face-to-face. As long as we can do it safely, we can social distance, and we can keep our staff safe too. And I believe that we've proven that we can do that with the measures that we've put in place. So that would be my recommendation. And that's the last slide. Joe, please.
So your recommendation is modified Plan B for all?
Yes. My recommendation is that we step back for the elementary schools. We go to 2 days of face-to-face instruction, 3 days of remote. That we stay, we'll have to stay in Plan B with the middle school and the high school, but that we give our Plan C students that their parents want them to come back an opportunity to, and that we continue to give that opportunity as long as there's space through an application process. It will be mandated that we maintain social distance and that we use the same strategies that we've been using throughout the fall. And if we see, Jerry, that that's not working, that we will take a different approach. What are your thoughts? Tell me what you're thinking.
I think it's worth trying. And I think, again, with the same addition that if things, January the 7th or whenever it is, explode on us, we've got Allison and
Yes.
Mark that can go ahead and make the decision without telling it to us. They just simply close it down. If it gets that bad, we know it's going to be bad. But I like that Plan B, modified Plan B.
Are you going to be able to implement the same thing for the elementary kids as you did before, according to faculty and staff, on the 2 off days? The kid's going to be able to go back to say, my kid goes Monday, Tuesday. Is she going to have the opportunity to be there Thursday and Friday as well, like we had before?
No.
Okay.
No, it'll be, at the elementaries, it would be.
For numbers, right? Because we're
Yes.
having, that's what I
Yes.
was making
Yeah.
sure that wasn't part of it.
It'll be more like August and September, Mitch,
Okay.
where they were going either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, and then the other 3 days will be
Totally remote.
instruction.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, because you'll need that
Basically giving
room.
the C plan folks fairness
Oh, yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
Getting more kids back in the classroom, period, overall.
Yes.
Even though you have
Yes.
to back some out.
Yes, yes. And I'm not just trying to sell it, but what we found is that and this is true in anything, by reducing the number in the classrooms, it gives the teachers an opportunity to really focus more. And what I'm hearing from the elementary schools right now, particularly, is with the reading assistants that we were able to put in place. We hired 5 because the county allotted us that money. That is making a significant difference in eye-to-eye contact for reading instruction, significant. And I'm looking forward to seeing those numbers come out. Now, I know if there are parents that are listening and there are parents that are going to find out about this whose elementary students are going to be stepped back, that it's going to upset them some. I understand that, I really do. But at the beginning of the process, we said, there's going to come a day when we're going to have to look at this again, and we're going to have to do something different with our C kids if we can. This is the point to do that, in my opinion. If we don't do this, I don't know what to do with our C kids at the elementary schools, other than just keep them C.
Because they're being more negatively effective right now than it is the elementary kids that are gonna lose that 2 days.
I think so.
I think so.
Mitch. And now, of course, and I believe that we can support that with research that's coming out right now. There's a tremendous negative effect for our students who are purely remote. Now, I want to say this the correct way. For some of, not for all.
Right.
And it is disproportionately affecting minorities and children of poverty. Okay, there's a huge, very well-respected study that's come out that has said that recently.
And more ways than just education, too.
Absolutely. So to the parents, if you decide to do that, to the parents who are going to be stepped back, I apologize to them with all of my heart, but my goal has always been get as many in the classroom as we can and do it safely. I've said that since August. So, but it's your all's decision. If you tell us that you don't like that plan, then we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll figure something else out in 2 days, hopefully. We'll try. Any other thoughts, questions?
The principals from the elementary schools have any comments or things you want us to know about?
Thank you.
And ladies, sorry. So we think that this is the plan that we can go with and that we can continue to keep everybody safe. The social distancing piece is the piece that we've been concerned about all along, and now this is a way that we can continue to social distance and we can also, get more kids back in the building. We're way worried about our C kids, guys, our virtual kids, and I know that y'all are too. But we hear stories every day, Evan and I, from parents who are just, what can I do for my kid? What can we do? What are you offering? What extra can we do? They're falling behind. And so we know that this is an issue. And then I think I heard somebody talk about staff kids. We are planning to, so for our staff kids, we have a ton of kids at West who belong to staff. And so what we did before was we ran childcare on Thursday and Friday, and we plan on doing that again. It's pain. I don't have any lies to tell because I have to pull staff to do that. But now at least I've got extra staff that we've just hired, so I don't have to feel like I'm just completely gutting my classrooms in order to make that happen. So at least that part's better. But yes, we will be running that again. Both elementary schools, I think. Yeah.
That was interesting. There's a legal reason for that as well. Federal employment law states that if we don't provide child care for staff members who have children who are on remote, that technically by law those students are not in school, and therefore we have to give the staff the opportunity to take care of their children at home. We can't run a school that way. So we provide child care. And actually it's the best thing to do anyhow. And it's being run so that those students are still in their own schools and we're not cross-contaminating from one school building to the next. The only place where they cross is the middle school kids do go to the high school, the middle school staff's children go to the high school and stay in the same facility with the high school students who are also staying on those days. Does that make sense to you? Okay? But they segregate, and the numbers are small from some of those groups. Okay? Evan? Okay. Tim, do you want to say something? He's going to say how beautiful Mr. Sell is. That's what he's going to say. No.
I want to say that the way our school year has worked up to this point, specifically with our B students, I really believe that we've become a model for Western North Carolina. We have done some fantastic things to stay open. Our teachers are working their tail off to ensure that protocols are being followed and that our students are safe. But I do feel pretty strongly right now that we are not giving our C students what they need. Our virtual students are falling behind. I've been talking to Mr. Sale about a great need for us to do something for them.
Yes.
And honestly, I feel quite powerless. And that's a frustrating feeling for me because I can't help these students. Their parents, honestly, I've had at least 10 parents who have begged me to allow their students to come back in the building. And at this point, I can't. And that's hard to say to a parent who wants their child to be inside of a building to learn from a teacher instead of a computer program, that I can't allow them to do that. So I think we're failing those students. I think we are doing a phenomenal job with the students in the building. And I just would like to give that opportunity to more students. And that's it. Thank you.
There's another, Tim brings to mind another piece for this, and that is, back in the spring, the state stepped up and pretty much said, if your name was on the roll and you tried a little bit, we're going to pass you on. You're going to pass the courses, you're going to pass the grade. We can't continue to do that. The state has mandated that we grade and we count attendance now. Our high school teachers are giving end-of-grade tests right now that will count 20%. We have EOCs starting next week at the high school. We don't know whether there's going to be any relief for end-of-grade testing in the spring or not. There's speculation, but we don't know. But the truth of the matter is, it's not fair to a student who hasn't achieved the skills and obtained the knowledge in a grade to pass them on to the next grade, knowing that they will be so far behind that they can't be successful. It's not fair. And what we're going to be seeing are larger numbers of retention needs. We're already finding that to be true, particularly among C students. They just can't get done. Okay? Anybody else?
Thank you.
Allison, you want to share your thoughts on this?
Just to go back for just a second, the vaccine, the second dose, is a booster, just to clarify that, to help with the immunity, to strengthen that immunity. So it is a booster shot. Going forward, bringing back C students, the greatest concern that we have from the health department or in general is, of course, the social distancing, that's 6 feet. Because when you have less than 6 feet and you have someone that has a positive COVID test, then it automatically puts anybody within 6 feet for 15 minutes out. Now that quarantine period has shortened to 7 days, so that does help tremendously because usually child goes to school on Monday, they develop a fever on Wednesday and get tested on Wednesday, it's positive on Wednesday. You've already got 2 days theoretically that they've already done their quarantine, so it kind of shortens that. So it has helped with that 7 days. But just be aware in those instances where you have within 6 feet, you're going to have more kids out by bringing in the C students, if that does happen in some of the classrooms. But you also have to weigh, is it better to bring the kids back and chance that? And that's your decision, really.
That is the reason that we're focusing on 12 per classroom. The square footage that we have allows for that. And we will maintain the expectation for one child per seat on the bus because we have to. You have questions for Allison? Anyone? So, Mr. McKinney, you know my recommendation.
We've only got, from what I can see, we've only got two choices, and I would entertain a motion now to put on the floor to go with one of either continue the current plan or modified B. But I don't think any of us going to want to go all C again.
I'll make the motion to move to Plan B, January 5th for all students, including those wishing to come back from Plan C, the virtual school, as has been outlined here.
I'll second.
All right. Would you include with that motion again, the same thing we did before, that Allison and Mark still have that authority if things blow up in their face on any given day, that they can take whatever action they need as soon as possible? Is that all right to put in that motion?
I'll add that in, yes.
Then we'll add that to that motion. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, let's go by a voice vote. We'll start with Kim.
I vote yes.
Cody White, yes.
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 And yes, so it carries unanimously.
With that in mind, then, you should have a calendar in front of you that has been designed with that in mind. Not that I was predicting what you would do, but I knew that I could take this calendar and I could modify it however I needed to. Mitch, do you have that calendar?
Yes, I do.
If you don't, I've got one.
I've got it right here.
Okay. This is very similar to the calendar that we had in place during the fall. You can look and see that every Wednesday is a remote learning day. You can see that there are teacher work days and holidays. I think there may be one change from your calendar that needs to be there's one change that needs to be made on your calendar, and that is June the 3rd looks like a mandated teacher work day, correct?
Yes.
We have mandated a teacher work day for our elementary and middle school staff on December the 18th. Therefore, we're going to move that mandated workday off of June the 3rd, and we're going to replace it with a teacher workday, which will be optional. Now, I will tell you ahead of time what's going to happen if this calendar is approved. If you'll look at May the 31st, that's Memorial Day. That's the Monday, the last Monday of the school year, according to how this calendar is sitting. We have to have EOGs, EOCs within the last 5 or 10 days of school. And to not have the 31st available for students to take tests is going to be difficult for the high school and for the students to do well. So there will, if we have a snow day, I'll be looking to use an annual leave day and take that away, okay? Which means our students will be in school on Memorial Day. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to any of our veterans or any of our servicemen and women. I'm just looking at what's the best interest of our students right now, where that's concerned, okay? And I think that that's probably the only piece that I need to mention, other than if it gets really bad, we need to watch out because there's not a lot of work days in this, and spring break could be affected. Parents need to know that. Spring break could be affected, okay? So don't plan a trip to Cancun unless you're willing to take your kids out of school and miss education.
Well, I think the sports are going through that week anyway, right?
They are.
So that will affect the impact.
Yes. So, Mr. McKinney, I bring this to you for approval from the school board for the fall, knowing that it could change in a heartbeat.
Okay. Have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor by a show of hands? That's carried.
Now, put away my agenda. Kim, do you have an agenda?
I do.
Man, I are all yours. Thank you. Our next meeting is on Monday evening. To our new board members, we don't traditionally meet every single week, but if you really like it, we can arrange it. That evening is dedicated to the presentation of our NC STAR plans, which is how our schools project how they're going to move forward, what things they're going to put in place. The NC STAR teams have been relegated to about 5 to 10 minutes presentation. I will have all of that information for you on Friday in your boxes so that you can read through them over the weekend in your leisure. All right? We need to be thinking about whether you want to continue having 2 meetings a month, Mr. Chairman. You don't have to make that decision tonight, okay? But that is
in January, maybe, when we meet, first meeting.
Okay?
That's how it goes.
So keep that on your mind. Calendar, we will be dismissing all students and all staff if they are in school on December the 18th. However, the only students that will be in school on December the 18th are the high school students who are making up tests, because there will be no elementary, no middle school students there. And we had to schedule it that way so we could get everything in. But the staff, all staff, will be dismissed at noon that afternoon. And there will be no reduction in our non-certified staff pay that day. That's the best Christmas bonus that I can give to them today. Okay? We're trying. That's all that I have, sir.
This is not on the agenda, but I'm going to give this to Martin, and I'll let him look at it and explain. I got an email today from the superintendent of instruction, Mark Johnson, and it's about end-of-course testing. Now, I asked Mark, and the information he had, he wasn't aware of this, but according to Mr. Johnson, the end-of-course test, they're recommending, I think the state school board was recommending that they be counted 20% and that they still have them. Now, I do favor that they still have them. This is just my personal opinion. I think it's a good measure of what they learn. My concern is, I don't know if we ought to, I'm not in favor of them counting 20% because of COVID, because not all kids have a fair shake at taking them, getting the information. So I'm going to give this to Mark, and he's going to look at it and check on it, and hopefully Monday night he can give you one of these papers if you want to send it. It just simply goes to that Rules Review Commission of how that you oppose it or don't oppose it. That's up to you. But I'll just make you aware of that. I'll give that to him.
I'll send you that by email. I've got it on here. It's not just, it is a state requirement by school board policy.
Right.
That it counts 20%. However, our state school board, since it is a policy, has the ability to amend that or even just not honor it this year, okay? My understanding was that they had already said they weren't going to do that, but my information could be wrong, and Superintendent Johnson has a tendency to go against the State Board of Education on a regular basis in North Carolina, and he may be trying to push his point on this. So I'll send that to you,
Okay.
and you can go ahead and send it in, and I will look into it in more detail and let you know, okay?
All right. Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All in favor, stand up and be ready to leave.
Thank you all very much. Joe, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.